As the winter season is fully underway and considering I have no hobbies, I thought to myself after a titanic volume of eggnog and mulled wine, why not make a review on a game fitting to the winter mood? Let's see what we have in store to capture the winter season spirit.
We roam the still, cold world. No horizon in sight. The rulers of old, stripped of pride and glory. It feels as yesterday we were turning the wheels of progress. Until the frost stopped it all. Suddenly, without a warning. When tides had changed, they changed for all of us, no matter wealth or class. We've lost our world to snow. And with it, our last traces of humanity. We bid farewell to plenty, and for those who remained came the time to adapt. We decided to leave our homes and head north. We roamed for weeks, maybe months, leaving behind all the things we once believed had made us. It was hope that pushed us forward. Slowly, step by step. We knew the cost of our journey, and we paid the price 100 times. Finally, the time has come to build the last city on Earth.
This is Frostpunk, a game released by 11-bit Studios in the year 2018. It plays in the post-Brexit Britain after a new ice age, and your objective is to lead a group of survivors with their oversized hot pocket to glory. How you do that is up to you. First, I would like to take a look at the visuals. Graphics-wise, this game is a complete treat. The frosty atmosphere is captured perfectly in the snowy landscape of your valley. The steampunk feel is portrayed well in the archaic yet in-universe advanced technologies. They emanate a feel of forgotten power that has been lost to this group due to change of climate. Everything you see here feels grounded despite being steampunk. Now, not a lot of games or books manage to do that, so that's a big positive in my book. The buildings you construct that are technologically more advanced feel very heavy and industrial. When you finish constructing these buildings, it gives you a feel of accomplishment and pride. Oh god, please no. The cutscenes and art direction are very well done and nothing ever feels out of place. They paint a clear picture of the atmosphere of the game and how the situation develops. This also presents you the feeling of doom the survivors have. I will elaborate on that later. Audio-wise, this game is superb. I can't say much, and that is in my opinion great. The soundtrack befits the situation you are in and only gets better as time advances. The sound in-game is also quite distinct. For example, you can always hear when your generator shuts down, or if there is some big change in atmosphere. Later I will show some examples that could be considered spoilers. I will warn you when we get to that point, of course. First and foremost, I'd like to say that there is no difficulty setting in the campaign. What you see is what you get, but that is plenty challenging for a starter. Now, the gameplay resembles a city manager with a few differences. I would say it's more of a survival city manager. If you fail to provide a resource in another game, you can simply import it. In Frostpunk, well, your population, they either get sick or straight up die. But don't worry, Frostpunk has plenty of tutorials, most of which I have never taken a look at because I hate instructions and love to suffer. When you load up a game, you will notice two bars, hope and discontent. If hope gets too low or discontent too high, you're gonna have a bad time. So your main task is to keep people hopeful and content. You also see your oversized hot pocket, the generator. Keeping it running is also one of your primary objectives, as without it, your people will freeze to death. If the people aren't happy with something, they will give you a quest and a timer. Should you fail to address their problems, discontent and hope become a problem quite quickly. At the beginning, your resources, steel, wood, coal and food, are limited. You will only get a few hundred of each, so you should start your research pretty quickly. Another key difference from other games is your population. Instead of being automatically assigned to different tasks, you need to manage who does what. Now at first that might sound very micro-intensive, and it is, but it's nowhere near as bad as it sounds. Just right now you've seen an example in the background. Now if you paid attention, you might have seen that there are two types of workers: engineers and your average Joe, the worker. The technology tree will be unlocked as soon as you build a workshop and presents you with a decent amount of choices. Most of which seem like they are great but are actually a honey trap. I would recommend looking for a starter's guide, as I suck way too much ass in the game to give you a good recommendation, but don't overdo it. The game should still be experienced without having a perfect build order. You advance through the tech tree as you acquire more resources and upgrade your workshops. This will allow you to get more powerful technologies at the cost of a rare resource called the Steam Core. These can only be acquired through a later research method, which I will talk about at another point to avoid spoilers. Now the decision tree is where you will make a lot of hard choices. You can choose to be a good ruler and care for your people, or you can make some more dubious choices. It is a balance of morality and the decisions for the greater good. You could send your children to child shelters, but you also could let them work in the coal mines to get more workers. If they can do it in sweatshops, they can also do it in minus 40 degrees. People will give their opinion on your laws, and they will always have a negative effect, mainly hope falling or discontent rising. You are made responsible for your choices, and the effects can be devastating.
New law! A new law has passed!
The choices will be expanded upon at a later point in the story, which we will get to now, so if you want to avoid spoilers, you should skip to this timestamp. Are they gone? Finally. The story revolves around building your own settlement and fighting others with scout parties. Said scout parties also scavenge for resources and help survivors of other cities find their way to you, giving you a bigger workforce. There are quite a few scripted events, most of which are triggered by sending out scout parties. This is one example. As you scout more of the frozen wasteland, it becomes apparent that another settlement, called Vulture, has fallen. This makes a group of people, calling themselves Londoners, wonder if we shouldn't go back to said city. They will try to convince more people over a relatively long time span to follow them and go back to the capital. And this is the moment we've been waiting for. The big decision. Either you build an ordered society which quickly turns into a Fourth Reich with you as the captain, or you can build the ecclesiarchy from Warhammer 40k and become their god emperor. Both choices have more or less the same effect, which is replacing the hope bar with obedience or devotion respectively, but they have different ways to achieve dealing with discontent. There are big differences in the buff they provide. I will however let you experience that on your own, because this would be far too much to cover in one video alone. After you have chosen which dictatorship you want to lead, the end boss will appear, a storm of untold size that your city will have to survive for a few days. Everything breaks down and you better have enough resources stored, because the people will most likely refuse to work. Now I will simply showcase a few points I mentioned earlier and then come to the conclusion. Regarding the soundtrack and the atmosphere, I mentioned that it ramps up in the late game. This will be the comparison between early and late game. If you listen closely, you will hear the different tracks and see the change of weather to emphasize the point of the city being on the verge of fucking up big time.
Our leader calls us to work. Slackers will be severely punished.
this is the early game for comparison. Now that is quite a difference, am I right? This will be my conclusion on the game. Normally I'm not the type for city managers, as it gets boring after a while, because the city is self-sufficient. And while you can achieve that in Frostpunk as well, it is much more likely that something doesn't work out and you need to manage so hard that you actually fall in slight panic. And that a city manager can achieve that is truly astonishing and a testament on how well done the atmosphere is. My personal highlight is the soundtrack and the choices you have to make. In most games you are the hero of the story. However, in Frostpunk, if you try to be the hero and do everything a good person would, well, you will most likely fail. Sacrifices need to be made or else the city won't survive. So if you're up for failing your way through the game and your peasants letting off some steam, then I can only recommend this game for you. But don't be discouraged if you fail a few times, because when you get that run in that you managed to survive, you will feel extremely proud of yourself and your city. Of course I left out a few things because I want to make your first experience a surprise and memorable at the same time. I can still remember my first run in the awe I felt at discovering new things. Frostpunk is available on Steam, and if you don't want to play the game, I can at least recommend the amazing soundtrack which is available on Spotify. Have a chill day. So hey guys, this was my first video, and if it sounds weird, I apologize, but I have been sick for the last week. So yeah, this is why my voice sounds kind of off. Nevertheless, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did making it. If you have any feedback or if you liked it and want to see me review another game, you can leave your recommendation in the comments. Now I will leave you with the amazing soundtrack of the game and some nice footage.